Lewis Hamilton's fury towards Ferrari at Baku has reached boiling point, and the latest evidence that has surfaced explains with painful clarity why the seven-time world champion was left so bitterly disappointed after qualifying. It was not a case of lacking raw pace, nor was it the SF25 betraying him with its unpredictable handling. This was a blunder in strategy, a tyre decision that effectively ended his session before it had even begun. Hamilton went into qualifying believing he finally had the tools to challenge for something special, that the speed he had shown in practice would translate into a serious push for pole. Instead, he was left stunned as the team sent him out on the wrong compound at the decisive moment, killing his chances and forcing him out in Q2. A driver who thrives on control and execution being undone by a call from the pit wall is a nightmare scenario, and his fury made it clear that this mistake cut deeper than most. The new evidence confirms that Ferrari committed to the softer C6 tyres when the rest of the frontrunners were banking their hopes on medium. The theory was that the softs would deliver instant grip, but in reality they overheated almost instantly, punishing Hamilton with instability and a lack of consistency across the lap. He wrestled the car through the high-speed curves, but it was hopeless. The tyres were not suited to the conditions, and his lap time fell well short of the benchmark. To make matters worse, it was his own teammate Charles Leclerc who benefited by being on the correct compound, delivering the lap that pushed Hamilton out of the top 10. Elimination wasn't down to driver error, but a decision that never should have been made, and Hamilton knew it. Afterwards, Hamilton admitted he wanted to be on mediums, that he was aware of what would work best, but was told by the team that fuel levels and warm-up times made the option impossible for him. That explanation sounded like poor planning, like a lack of foresight that left him with no real chance to fight. It was especially bitter because just a day earlier he had topped FP2, feeling as though he had finally found rhythm in the car and was ready to attack. To go from that high to a Q2 exit created a gulf of frustration that even Hamilton struggled to hide. His anger was not just about the qualifying result. It was about the wasted opportunity, the sense that Ferrari's mistakes were once again costing him the chance to prove himself at the very front. For Ferrari's tifosi, the scene was all too familiar. They had seen the red cars fly in practice, raising hope of redemption after Monza, only to see it unravel when it mattered most. Hamilton's fury echoed the frustration of the fans who have grown tired of watching strategic missteps overshadow the team's potential. The evidence that has now emerged only fuels the narrative that Ferrari continue to stumble in the very moments when perfection is required. For Hamilton, who left Mercedes to take this gamble, it was yet another reminder that the dream of glory and red risks being lost to the same operational weaknesses that have plagued Ferrari for years. His fury is not just the reaction of a champion denied it, is the sound of a driver who knows he deserves better. So, don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay with us until the very end to uncover every last detail of Hamilton's fury and the shocking evidence that has left Ferrari reeling. Lewis Hamilton's fury with Ferrari in Azerbaijan was not a fleeting outburst after a disappointing session. It was the eruption of weeks of pressure, expectation, and frustration boiling over in the most dramatic way possible. What made this episode so shocking is that everything leading up to qualifying pointed towards a breakthrough. Hamilton had topped FP2 with a lap that stunned the paddock, quicker even than last year's pole position. And he had done it with a control and confidence that had been missing since he first stepped into red overalls. For the first time all season, he looked like himself again, fluid, precise, fast. The tifosi, desperate for a reason to believe, latched onto it immediately. The media buzzed with talk of Hamilton finally mastering the SF25. Headlines declared that Ferrari could be back in the hunt, and fans began to dream of a front-row lockout in Baku. It meant Ferrari had backed themselves into a corner with no flexibility, no margin, and no way to adjust when it mattered most. It was poor planning, dressed up as inevitability. And Hamilton knew it, driving at his absolute best all weekend, only to watch the team undo it in the blink of an eye. The sting was made worse by the fact that it was his own teammate who delivered the knockout blow. Leclerc, always sharp in qualifying and always dangerous on chaotic weekends, strung together a lap on the mediums that nudged Hamilton out of the top 10. For Hamilton, the humiliation was complete. To be eliminated in Q2 was bad enough, but to have it come at the hands of a teammate on the compound he himself had wanted, it felt like betrayal not by Leclerc, but by the very system meant to support him. This was supposed to be a partnership, a united front. Yet, in that moment, it looked like Hamilton had been left exposed. Fred Vasseur tried to downplay the incident, insisting that positives could still be taken from Hamilton's pace and that the issue would be dealt with internally rather than in the press. But he could not disguise the reality. This was a catastrophic own goal by Ferrari, the kind of error that has haunted them for decades. The timing could not have been worse. With Mercedes breathing down their necks in the constructors' standings and McLaren growing stronger by the race, Ferrari needed to show they could match operational excellence with raw speed. Instead, they proved that even when they had the pace, they still found ways to trip over themselves. For Hamilton, the psychological impact is profound. He has spoken many times about how alien the SF25 feels, how he has had to compromise his natural style just to keep the car on edge. This weekend was supposed to be different, the first time he felt like the car was working with him rather than against him. He was beginning to sense that elusive flow, that rhythm that made him invincible at his peak. To have that snatched away, not by rivals, but by his own team, was crushing. He described himself as furious, and it is easy to understand why. Drivers can accept being beaten on track, but they cannot accept being sabotaged by their own pit wall. The Tifosi, who had travelled to Azerbaijan full of renewed hope after seeing Hamilton dominate practice, were left stunned. They had seen the raw speed. They had felt the momentum building, and they believed Saturday could finally deliver redemption. Instead, they watched a familiar nightmare unfold, another Ferrari driver let down by another Ferrari blunder. For fans who've endured 18 years without a championship, it was salt in an open wound. They know Hamilton is still capable of greatness, and they know he is giving everything to this project. But they also know that moments like this will cost them any chance of silverware if they continue.